Hi there, and welcome. In this video, you'll get all the information you need to run your own version of the Polycrisis Exploration Workshop with confidence. If you're new to Foresight, no worries, that's totally fine. After this training, you'll have a clear grasp of the workshop's purpose, how to guide participants through each step, and how to make it a truly engaging and thought-provoking experience. This workshop toolkit was originally developed by the EU Policy Lab at the European Commission's Joint Research Centre for Commission use. After many successful runs in different fields, the toolkit is now available to a wider audience. This video is our way of helping you to run your own workshop. The Polycrisis Exploration Workshop is a hands-on experience that helps teams understand how future risks connect. They use that understanding to explore possible actions to tackle the consequences. But before we dive into the workshop, let's quickly run through the basics. What is foresight, and what do we mean by polycrisis? Foresight, anticipation, futures thinking, whatever we call it, it isn't about predicting the future. It's a mindset. One that moves us away from thinking about one obvious and deterministic future towards imagining multiple futures so we make wiser choices today. It gives us the time to step back, spot emerging changes, and get ready for what's coming next, not just reacting when it arrives. So, what exactly is a polycrisis? A polycrisis occurs when multiple crises don't just happen side by side in silos. They collide and amplify one another, sometimes in surprising ways. We might know the risks and their interconnections in a specific field, but fail to take into account other areas that might have a major knock-on effect. We saw how the COVID outbreak impacted all of society, with some of those impacts still being felt today. For example, a cyber attack on a public IT system could delay welfare payments, causing financial hardship, which could in turn cause social unrest. In a polycrisis, it's not just one crisis we face, it's several crises happening at the same time, interconnecting and thereby impacting each other. The workshop helps participants to see these complex connections more clearly and identify actions to address them. The idea is to look beyond the usual risks considered in your field of work. We want to raise awareness of cascading impacts and stimulate creative thinking on mitigation actions. The workshop won't produce a comprehensive policy by itself. What it will do is bring new and probably overlooked insights. Think of it as a safe, creative space for teams to explore complexity together. You don't need any specific knowledge up front. Your job as facilitator is to create a warm, inclusive atmosphere where every participant feels valued and comfortable sharing their ideas. Now you know what we're asking of people, let's go through the process. There are 3 distinct phases. Before the session, make sure the space where you're holding the workshop encourages interaction. You'll need large tables for plenary discussion, wall space, sticky notes, markers, and of course, the polycrisis risk cards. You'll also need a projector or screen for the short introduction, and enough room to make sure that participants can move during the icebreaker. If you can't find wall space, having the posters on tables can work. What matters is that participants can see the poster easily. There's no set number of people that you need to take part, but bear in mind that 6 to 8 is an ideal size for the subgroup discussions, and each subgroup will need a facilitator. Your main goal is to make them feel relaxed and curious. Remind them, this is a collective exploration with no right or wrong answers. Let's start the workshop with a quick icebreaker. We're suggesting an adaptation of the POLAC game, which will help participants to reflect on how they see the future and their ability to influence it. Create 2 axes on the floor with tape. This gives you 4 quadrants: better, worse, powerful, powerless. Ask 2 questions. In 10 years' time, do you think the world will be better or worse? And how much power do you have as an individual to influence that future? Okay, so what I'd like you all to do is to close your eyes. Project yourselves 10 years into the future. What's that future going to look like for you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, the organisation you work for? What does the future look like locally, regionally, nationally, internationally? Okay, open your eyes. This short, light exercise breaks the ice and shows the group that people hold very different attitudes towards the future, and that diversity of views is a real asset in foresight work. It also gets people moving about. The idea of this exercise is to get your participants already thinking about the future. It's also a good moment to point out how people come with really different perspectives, dependent on their personality, background, experience, or ambitions. It's important that we're all aware of our subjectivities and welcome other perspectives. This is the basis and richness of the exercise. You can also use this moment to define the subgroups for the rest of the workshop. Assign a specific colour to each matrix quadrant and ask participants to form groups of 6 to 8 people with a balanced representation of all colours. This way, you ensure every table has a balance of perspectives, rather than, for example, having all the optimists sitting together. Now, it's time for activity 1, exploring the risk landscape. Each group receives a matrix and a pre-assigned subset of risk cards. Their task is to analyse each of the specific risks and place them on the matrix. Ask them to consider, how much knowledge do we have about this risk and how it will manifest, not now, but in the future? What are the possible impacts of this risk on our policy topic? Then, explain the 4 quadrants briefly. High knowledge, low impact, things we already understand. High knowledge, high impact, a risk for which we should already have plans in place. Low knowledge, low impact, interesting but not urgent. Low knowledge, high impact, things we haven't thought about but could have dramatic consequences. This latter quadrant is the sweet spot, the risks you'll be exploring in the workshop. There's no minimum. Participants are free to select as many as they want. Not every card needs to be assigned, though make sure that the participants are really thinking about finding those unexplored risks. Again, there are no right or wrong answers. The goal is to spark curiosity and a first grading of the risks on the matrix. You can also add new risk cards if you think something important is missing.
Okay, so now let's look at migration, for example, and how much knowledge do you think we have on how this risk will look in 2036? Do you think we have a lot of knowledge, we know what's going to look like or not?
When a subgroup is ready, they copy their results to the central shared matrix for the plenary discussion. You lead that plenary discussion and make any adjustments that the group collectively agrees. Now it's time to vote. Give each participant 1 sticky dot and ask them to vote for the risk that they think deserves deeper exploration. The 3 cards that get the most votes become the focus for the next activity. In activity 2, we move from identifying risks to imagining how they could unfold in the future. Ask your participants to put themselves 10 years in the future. Remember that by then, politics, economy, society, technology, none of it will be as it is today. It's important to remind the group to transport themselves into this future and create a clear view of what that future will be. Encourage bold future thinking. Go beyond today's reality. Imagine new, even unlikely developments. No idea is too extreme. If people laugh at something, you're probably challenging assumptions, and that's exactly the point. Imagine now that each risk has turned into a crisis. Starting with the first card, ask participants to brainstorm what we call first-order impacts, direct and concrete consequences of that crisis. It can help to use the STEEP framework, identifying social, technological, economic, environmental and political impacts. The goal here is to depict this future world as precisely as we can. Each crisis is explored on its own to uncover its maximum potential to change the future. Once that exploration is done, participants should mentally set that card aside and move on to the next one. This is important. Making connections comes later. Once you've explored the risks individually, then it's time to start making connections. Looking at links between the risks, the impacts you've already identified, and any new impacts that might arise. Encourage them to write every idea on a sticky note. 1 idea per note. Remember, there are no wrong ideas. Participants do this for each of the 3 risk cards. Now we're going to change the dynamic. We're going to get into pairs to discuss the next level of consequences. So choose a partner, and together you're going to talk about the second order impacts. When the mapping is complete, ask all the pairs to stand. And with a marker, draw lines with arrows connecting second order impacts to each other and to first order impacts. At this moment, you should challenge participants to create as many connections as possible and to include the direction of the impact by adding an arrow at the end of the line. Participants create these connections by asking, does this impact augment or influence this other impact? Finally, give each participant 5 voting dots. Ask them to vote for the most unexpected second order impacts. We're looking for surprises and blind spots, not the obvious outcomes. So now we've reached the final phase, activity 3. This session is entirely dedicated to moving from insights to action. We begin by reviewing the top voted unexpected impacts and their related pathways. The participants then engage in a cleaning process, removing duplicates, clustering similar ones, and refining their wording. Once the cleaning is done, participants vote again to select the top priorities. They receive voting dots to select the outcomes that have the most impact on the topic and the outcomes on which they have the most agency. The agency outcomes with at least 1 vote become the focus of the last activity. Okay, now we're going to get into pairs to turn this into action. Each of the pairs will take one of the unexpected impacts and come up with 2 specific ideas. One should be quite fleshed out with an action plan, a sense of the stakeholders, maybe even a timeline. The other idea can be bolder, more imaginative, more future thinking. Right, okay. So you understand? Finally, the pitch. You have 60 seconds. Make it count. Your time starts now.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to present in front of the whole group.
Participants evaluate the pitches based on impact and feasibility, providing instant feedback to their peers. Use this final reflection to connect the workshop back to the participants' daily work. Emphasise that the value lies in collective learning, not in perfect answers. And that's it. Now you're ready to run your own Polycrisis Exploration Workshop. Remember, you're not there to have all the answers. You're there to help others think about the future. Be curious, be flexible, and keep the energy positive. Every group will have its own rhythms and discoveries. That's what makes this process so powerful. The more these workshops spread, the more resilient our institutions become. Thank you for taking the lead in exploring the future with foresight.